He's pretty cool. I'll go 4 minutes in.
Good afternoon, everybody. If I might have your attention, please. I hope that you're enjoying the program so far, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 2023 Kenworth Legends Lunch. Just before I start, a small housekeeping matter. If anybody has lost an iPad, please do let me know. You have 15 minutes and then I'm auctioning it. I'd like to invite Michael Long, Director of Sales and Marketing for PACCAR Australia, to the stage. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of PACCAR and our dealer network, welcome to the Kenworth Legends Lunch. It's been great to see how many people are here and participating in such important topics of what's going on in the industry at the moment and how we can make it better in the future. I'm really proud to say that PACCAR and the dealer group have been in association and partners with the Australian Trucking Association for 16 years now, starting in 2007. Through this partnership, we aim to assist and provide influential presence, information and advocacy in key decision-making forums across the country. We also aim to support the delivery of critical programs for the wider road transport industry. And to show PACCAR and its dealer network's continued support for the ATA, I'd like to invite Dylan Hurley, representing the dealer group from the Brown & Hurley Group, and Dave Smith, the ATA chair, to the stage. We'll present a cheque that will help the ATA to continue to drive their support for safe, progressive and viable transport industry. Thank you, Dylan and Dave. So now we're into the more, interesting part of the afternoon. Since the first Kenworth Legends Lunch in 2010, we've recognised 22 customers as Kenworth Legends. And today we're going to recognise the 23rd. Before I do that though, I'd like to introduce Bruce Gunter, who's going to interview our latest legends. Many of you know Bruce and are aware of his passion for trucks. He's had a successful career in transport. He's a compliance expert, mental health advocate, co-founder of the Kenworth Classic annual event, and he's also the founder of the Hall and the Hume event. And he's co-founder of Copy Southbound. For those of you who haven't heard Copy Southbound, there probably aren't many of you, Bruce does a great job, or fantastic job really, of interviewing and sharing the stories of some of Australia's transport icons, which is why he's here today. So on that note, come on up, Bruce. On that note, we're going to show a short video that will reveal this year's Kenworth Legends.
My name's Frank Bilato. Yeah, I'm John Bilato, and we're at G&S Transport, and we run a fleet out of Alice Springs here. We mainly do transport with tippers and some float work and some flat tops, and we specialise in going out to remote areas of Australia. So there's three of us boys, Bilato brothers, Robert, John and myself. Robert's in WA, he's probably the quieter one out of all three of us, and John's the serious one, and he makes all the big decisions, and I tend to have a lot lighter look at life.
Rob runs the quarry and the trucks over in Headland, and then Frank and I run the Alice Springs operation. Basically I push the trucks and Frank pushes the quarry a bit, but sometimes we swap it around. Sometimes I jump in the truck and drive shortages and a few other things, but it's definitely a family business, and we're only one part of a family, right from the wives and the children and the sisters and that help the family company along.
Both our wives and Robert's wife are in WA. Our sister's helping us too, and my son Ryan, he was a fitter with us. He's actually at the CJD, the Kenworth dealer now, as a workshop manager, but we trained him up.
I mean, our old man was in transport, but very proud of our heritage. Our father was a new Australian in Australia, and they didn't get the easiest life after the Second World War coming here, and they were certainly not scared of hard work. Any of those people that came to Australia, they'd seen hard times, and I mean, I'm sure taught us a good work ethic, but then he passed away pretty early in life, and we all got together after he passed away, and it's extremely strong family company, you know, and having these Kenworths as part of that, you know.
Yeah, Alice Springs, it is a harsh place. You know, we have extremes in weather here, like, you know, you get up to 45 degrees in the shade in the summer, and then, you know, you get -5s in the winter.
You know, a lot of the infrastructure has been rough old dirt roads, especially during the drought times when they don't get a lot of moisture in them. And then when it's not like that, it's flooding rain, you're battling the mud, you know. And so the trucks get back covered in mud. From the bull bar to the last trailer is just mud.
Yeah, that's where the Kenworth product has really shone, you know, because it's been so strong. A lot of people still look at us because of what we do with them, with the machines. And because they can handle what we do, a lot of other people buy them.
A lot of the things you get in the Kenworth you don't appreciate until you don't have a Kenworth.
And we can talk to the people manufacturing, and so the product has got better and better over the years, you know. And I think we've made it a better product with the modifications that we've helped along the way.
And the other thing with the Kenworths is, you know, it's a lonely old existence out on the Tanami there in the nights there, and people always wonder why we wash the trucks and clean them to the best of our ability and get them over the pit. And you know, sometimes you'll go past someone pruning a rose bush in the front of their yard, you know, and you go past the next place and there's a bloke polishing his Harley wheels, you know, and you think, well, you know, what's driving that? It's just our family pride and trying to instill that pride on our drivers. That pride is a huge part of our business. Without that pride, you're really battling it in transport. And when you look at the successful transport companies in Australia, they're always filled with pride.
Yeah, recently we were nominated to be and called Kenworth Legends this year, and I personally don't think that I'm a Kenworth legend. The legend of the brand name itself, actually the product is probably a lot more of a legend than what we are. It was here before us and it'll be probably here after we're gone, you know.
If I could invite Frank and John to the stage, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, I'd love to thank Kenworth for inviting me to be part of this. I'm a huge advocate for transport in general. It's a bit hard sitting up here, or a bit strange to sit up here with a couple of legends. I'm in awe of so many operators in this room and what they've done to survive through the years and to be here. There's a lot of guys that have been in it for a lot longer than what I've been alive, and that's saying something. So, I am in awe. But after having lunch yesterday with Frank and then breakfast with John this morning, which was hilarious because I was told he was the quiet one, I'm really looking forward to this. So, boys, thank you very much for making the trek and coming down here. So, firstly, I want to talk about your mum and dad and how your dad came out here to Australia and what he kicked off doing, which obviously was instrumental to you, and also what on earth made him go out there.
It was probably money. You know, he came to Australia in '51 and after a year in Melbourne, and then like a lot of the new Australians, they were ambitious, and so they went north. That's where they were paying the best money in a place called Rum Jungle, which is, you know, where Bachelor is, like probably 140 k's out of Darwin, uranium mine. So that's where they went. And whilst he was up there, he met our mother, who was a school teacher, an Australian lady, born in Geelong, and they fell in love, and here we are, 6 of us.
So Italians, so good Catholics too, not much to do out there.
No, that's right. And, yeah, the power's off a lot down in the time.
Exactly. And John, what did your dad start off doing? Like when he first went out there for work, what did he kick off doing?
Oh, as an operator, and then, I think he had an opportunity to buy a little, I mean, they only had little, 10-tonne tipper trucks in the days, and so, yeah, started off with that, photos on their smoke arrow wall of little tiny trucks they had in them days, but they were still trucks, I suppose,
Yep.
And, I'm not sure if it was always his dream. I think he was just after money initially, wanted to go back to northern Italy there, where it's probably an easier life and better life, and better looking women to him and all that, but, he just fell in love with his English teacher, and we're all here now, eh? So.
Yeah, and well, that probably would have helped him because it would have been a language barrier when he first came out as well, so that probably would have been a good thing.
Yeah.
So when you boys, when you were born, obviously, and you left school, what trade did you get into? Was he encouraging for you to get into transport, or was he pushing you for a trade? Where did you go from there?
No, I think he wanted us to, broaden our horizons. So our older brother Robert, he became a diesel mechanic, which is not far from transport. And then Johnny and I were both electricians, sparkies, but not long. We didn't stay in it. We finished our trade, and probably 18 months later, when we went trucking again.
And with that, where did you guys both kick off when it came to transport?
Yeah, we both worked. Well, sorry, no, but we both worked for Gulf Transport, Jim Cooper, and over in West Australia. And so we both started hauling lead and zinc concentrate out of the Cadgebuck mine to the Wyndham Wharf back in the day, and then eventually we bought our own trucks and subbied.
Yeah, old Jim Cooper. I mean, he was, iconic in the transport industry. He knew his stuff, and he was only a small little company when we started driving with him, and it was hard work. It was all single lane bitumen up through Kimberley's there and big trucks and that. But I mean, we're only young, and so we're just doing it for the fun of doing it. Like
Exactly.
We were both electricians and that, but it wasn't what we wanted to do. We'd just rather steer the big trucks through the night.
An electrician, you would have been accustomed because I'm plugging that back trailer.
Yeah. I mean, it was just all the fun of doing it and the adventure, I suppose.
Yeah.
And,
what were you driving? What did you kick off in?
Yeah, K-Series powered Western Stars. Yeah, there's a fleet of them, old Jim made big trucks. Slow. Like that. I mean, you thought you were the king of the world doing 84 kilometres an hour, downhill with a tailwind, but they pulled it all right. But no, it was good.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have swapped it for the world, a good bunch of blokes. And I mean, there was, people waiting to jump in your truck. You'd organise all your relief drivers if you went on break and that, there's always people wanting to do your job, so a bit different these days,
And so from there, you would have had a good mentor, and then, and I know you lost your dad early. He was 52, is that right, when he passed away?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And so then from there, you started off with G&S, so how did that come about?
Oh, we did a job. So we were already working at the Granites at Goldmine. Built the whole road out to a place called DBS, 50 kilometres top of west of the Granites, and Dead Bullock Soak was where they were hauling material from. And so we got in cahoots with this lad, another ambitious bloke, Greg Rhodes. And so we met Greg there, and he company G&S in Alice Springs came up for sale, and he was interested in it. And Greg and Sue Sline, but Greg got crook from he was a driller in a quarry, and he got city coasted at 43. He was one of Australia's first heart lung transplant, and so he passed away, and we bought the remnants of G&S off his widow, and so we just kept the name in respect for Greg, because he was another hard-working lad.
Yeah, sure. So how many trucks were there and trailing equipment when you first kicked off?
There was 3 Macs, and plus then we had one Western Star, and probably would have only had 9 trailers back then, maybe.
Pretty small fleet, but all pretty rugged old gear,
Still a pretty big thing to jump into.
Yeah, it's a 20-odd year old,
What were they, E9s, V8 Max?
Yeah.
Pretty iconic truck of the outback back in the day.
Yeah, they certainly did the job right.
Definitely.
Changed since then, but
Yeah. And then where did you go from there when it came to purchasing?
95 we bought 3 501s, and basically made a big difference in productivity. They weren't type of coming into the workshop and having 3 days in the workshop and 3 days out in the desert. So the 50s just much stronger radiator set up, and definitely built for the job. And so he spent a long time out on the road, and so like people that don't know us, we've type of ended up doing 38,000 trips into the Tamai Desert in our lives, which is the biggest carrier out there. So, 70 well and truly used to driving this heavy equipment down corrugated dirt roads. So that's where we've cut our teeth and made our money. And yes, not all beer and skittles, I can tell you that, you know.
I think one of the best, looking back, right, I think one of the best Kenworths that was ever built was a 650. The 650s were great when they came out, and especially the Caterpillar powered ones. How much people here, but they, reliability, and they were probably one of the standout things in we've both done lots and lots of hours and kilometres and
one thing you have to remember with driving transport equipment down like unmaintained dirt roads is from a normal transport company point of view, they don't often bring the infrastructure into your equation when you asked to do a job. It can rain, you put the wipers on and a few things like that, but with us it can rain, and like we just had this year, you don't go to the mine for 7 weeks, and so you've got a full fleet of equipment and nowhere to go for 7 weeks straight, so like you get storms and the road can deteriorate depending on the grading contract you've got, and then like trucks can come back, and then the workshop boys are working through the night to replace 3 broken axles on the trailer, or like there's lots of unforeseens, and like especially the Kenworth, because the Kenworths they just listen to some of the long-term problems they're having, and that actually became a good testing ground. Because like problems come through a lot quicker on a corrugated dirt road. We've got 3.8 million corrugations to get over to get to that mine, and you think driving over a 6-inch block of wood, what it feels like. Well, you line up 3.8 million of those and drive over them, and then drive over them on the way home. And it doesn't matter if you try and get off the road. In some places that Panama Road now is 180 metres wide. Like it's that wide that no one drives on the road. You drive
it's a bit like driving up the mule nowadays.
Yeah, so it is.
So we keep hearing.
Yeah, but like you say, with the Kenworths, you just didn't appreciate what you had till you didn't have it. I mean, like we just, we can have trucks 7, 8, 9 years old with the original radiators in them, and I mean, we do a lot of maintenance and we know what breaks on with that. But they certainly turned our business around.
Yeah, and I think, like, when I spoke to you yesterday and this morning, and I was in awe of what you were telling me. I'm a bit like every American out there that likes trucks, that's fascinated with road trains, and just what they do and how hard they work. And but when you were talking about, like, Anthony Spence Fletcher, you said he'd been a real backbone for you, because you could talk to him about a problem, and then he can turn around and say, well, let's, you might have fixed it, or
I'm surprised he doesn't hate us. I really am.
Probably kept him in a job, so that's
He's giving us a lot of good advice, like public speaking,
He's a natural.
It's like going to a nudist beach. It's only hard for the first 2 minutes.
You promised you wouldn't say that.
Wasn't me, Hedge.
I'm blushing here, and I don't blush very often. Bad enough knowing that I've got a head for radio and I have to sit up here, so but then Ryan did it last time, so that's okay. But anyway, with you talked about the breakdowns, and there were basically just the roads destroying them. What you said that for what would wear a truck out, or the things that would break in 6 months, might take a line haul operator 4 years before they break that, if that. So at least for engineering purposes, for any manufacturer, like that's good feedback.
It's a fantastic testing ground, the corrugated roads, but I mean, like I said earlier, we didn't put the Australia's biggest single gold deposit out in the middle of the Panama Desert. We weren't responsible for putting it out there, and I think Australia's got to be lucky that they still do manufacture a lot of these big heavy trucks in Australia, because we had a competitor come out there the other day, 3 years ago now, with a Volvo. He did 2 trips in it and spent $27,000 on it. I mean, Volvos are good trucks, but the infrastructure is just not there, and they because they can't really spec those trucks up to do that work. Whilst the infrastructure is like it is in Australia, we're going to need a heavy manufacturer that listens to them, because there's always going to be the need to get. I mean, the road trains to that mine, it will be simply unviable to mine out there if it wasn't for having these big trucks to get to it, because it's their lifeline. Whether they like it or not, it is their lifeline. Everything goes to that mine. I mean, after the road closure, there was 89 road trains went to that mine in the first week, and 254 in the first 2.5 weeks. And so, you know, like there's more road trains went from Alice Springs to the Granite Sky mine than went to the Darwin. So, yeah, that one mine absorbs more freight than the whole, you know, 150,000 people that live in Darwin.
Wow, that's a big call, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you've got infrastructure that you would expect in Africa from someone like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully that eventually the infrastructure catches up with the economic development in these places, because
Yeah, like the Northern Territory, we've only got 30% of our road is bitumen, so we've got 70% of it's dirt, and a lot of it isn't. We've got a very large area and a very small population base, so there's not a lot of money spent on the dirt roads.
In the 70s they had a beef roads program which our father worked on, and so they put a network of single lane bitumen roads throughout the territory, Queensland, and those just basically made all that country up there economic to, you know, grow and harvest livestock. And so, but before that everything was drove, and then once they pushed all the beef road network through, and you know, there's some big companies from Western Australia like Bell Brothers and that came and pushed all that infrastructure into the bush, and but then, you know, consequently the livestock industry exploded since they did that. And I think, you know, like hopefully they can keep pushing that infrastructure through, because like you say, they build the roads and then the exploration's there, and then, you know, especially from regional centres in Australia, they, you know, I mean, a lot of, you know, we run a fleet of beautiful big gear, but you know, not everybody wants to drive it down a dirt road where you can't even listen to the radio and listen to your podcasts and that, because all you hear is a rattle and bang and, you know, constant worry of what's fucking falling off your trailers. So, you know, like, it doesn't attract where it should attract drivers and that, but it just adds another dimension of, you know, awkwardness to attracting blokes. It's not everyone's kettle of fish. It's the same as the livestock industry, you know. Like sometimes you get dirty and you've got to get back in that truck dirty, you know, and you've got to crawl in the bunk filthy dirty because you're sick of having baths underneath the trailer tank, you know.
Yeah. I think most livestock drivers have got their own physiotherapists.
Oh, exactly the same, yeah, exactly the same, yeah.
They need that, definitely. And what about trailing equipment and specking up trailing equipment to make it?
Oh, well, we learned all that the hard way, but you know, after realising that, you know, all the cracked axles, every time we crack an axle, you know, because you can't see the trailers from the first trailer back, you just wouldn't have a clue what, so you just spend all day gazing at your air pressure gauges and making sure something hasn't rubbed on, you're burning the trailer down, you know, your brakes are coming on slowly, and yeah, so, you know, anything with a 5-inch axle on that road lasts 6 weeks, and then you start getting cracks, and then so consequently, you know, we just slowly started changing the whole fleet out to a 6-inch axle, 6-inch square axle, and so that we leave it at that volume, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so yeah, that was hard-earned lessons, you know. Like it takes a long time to learn that, and you type of live in hope. You think, oh, we'll get some lighter gear, get a bit more payload, and the infrastructure will get better. But if it doesn't, you're running a risk of that, and so you type of have to try and spec your equipment to be light enough to be economically viable to tow down the road, but heavy enough to, in the suspension and axles and that, to take that road. So like, yeah, there's a fairly fine balancing act, and the road just punishes you if you get that wrong. You don't live for a year and get to rectify it. 12 weeks later, you are parked up, broke, stone others broke, you know. So yeah, like, you know, you can imagine if it costs you $5,000 to put 2 tyres or 4 tyres on a broken axle and replace the beam, and the agony of doing that, you know, because if you haven't, you know, if you've got a quad that's running down there and happens to your middle trailer, or you pull that middle trailer out, and then all of a sudden you haven't got a quad. And so like one broken axle can pull a whole quad off the road for 2 or 3 days while you feed another axle onto that trailer. So you just have to be so careful in inspecting that gear.
We're lucky in Australia that we've got some really good trailer manufacturers that have had a lot of experience, you know, whether it's tippers or crates or flat tops, and you know, the gear that comes out of Australia is you know, probably, you know, world leaders in a lot of ways for, you know, and it's just been because they've learned the hard way, whether it's Drake trailers or Tristar, McMurray's, Hallmarks, or any other one I haven't mentioned. Like, yeah, you know, so they make really good products here in Australia, you know.
I think it goes to show that so many manufacturers worldwide test their products over here. Just goes to show how tough it is and how tough the outback is as well. And and equipment is the thing. You know, you were telling me this morning that you've got, I think it was 6 prime movers spare that you sit in the yard.
Yeah.
much.
I mean,
And a number of
everybody
colours.
has breakdowns,
Yeah.
And so, the quicker you recover from a breakdown, the better off you are, eh? But, the one thing that Australians, especially Territorians, don't appreciate when they see those quads go past is they're actually witnessing the most efficient form of transport in Australia and in the world. Like these things will haul 100, 105, 120 tonnes of product with one truck and one driver, with one set of emissions coming out of the exhaust. And like when you look at the rest of the world that can't get their head around these road trains, well, even a B-double to them, like when you see China emitting all these massive amounts of emission compared to Australia, and they don't even run a B-double there, And so like if they can come and learn how to run these doubles and just set up major infrastructure, you're not going to say take a quad down every road here, but like China's a big country and so is Russia, and there's lots of countries like Canada and that have got beautiful infrastructure but can't get their head around multi-combination units. And you think, well, they're not 5% better or 15% better. These are 100% better. These quads run 100-tonne payload. Like that, the countries just do the thing. If we can do some heavily spec gear and run 100-tonne units between some of these major centres, that you can split up, like especially double B doubles, that you can split up really easily. Like for instance, like the cattle hauliers now, that run double B doubles and then pull them apart and running into the apps, like they do out of the territory now. Like those efficiencies are just mind blowing, and like the CO2 emissions, and so like from like transport being like at the mercy of all the emissions, they could actually especially in Australia, they could be actually saying, well, going to the higher combination units, the heavy combination units, we shouldn't be penalised so much with the emissions because we're actually per tonne kilometre an extremely low emitter.
And your fuel burn would be massive compared to...
Oh yeah, I mean, with our fuel, I mean, we get it bad because we run the whole fleet down on 55 PSI, and so we reduce the tyre pressures to protect the suspension and load and everything else. And so, I mean, I'm telling you a story about when Kenworth years ago stupidly gave us a 904 with a brand new A-cert in it as a trial truck. This is a beautiful truck.
It's a great story, this too.
People in the industry would remember it. It was a beautiful truck. They gave it to us 12 weeks. Absolutely stupid of them. We put it straight on the Tanamite. And
that it was rooted when you gave it back.
Oh, no, we did try and look after it like we do with all our equipment. Don't like to see anything broken, but anyway, this thing had all recording equipment behind the passenger seat. And one morning, because we were running cement to the mine at that stage, and one morning this American dude rang me up, first thing in the morning, wanted to know why the truck hadn't come off 100% fuel for 3 hours and 12 minutes. He said, you must have some huge mountains over there. And like, this is 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, and I was just thinking, what the fuck is this road? And I said, mate, we ain't got no mountains here, eh? I said, it's flat as a stinking tap, all we got is spin effects. And he said, well, I'm just looking at this truck and it's been on 100% fuel for 3 hours and 12 minutes. And I was trying to think who was driving it on that day. And, oh yeah, it's this Greg Lennon, and he's pretty heavy-footed, the bugger. And I said, mate, he's fully loaded. He's got 85 tonne of powder on, cement powder, and I said, all the tyres are down. And I said, it's 320 k's to you in the mill. I said, he'll be backing off by now, he'll be on the dirt by now. But yeah, I said, that's what they do. And it's just the tyre pressures made that thing just drag, eh? And so I had all the answers for him, but it certainly wasn't mountains. It was just tyre pressures and full load triples, But we gave back to him and it did a good job. And we were very grateful to Kenworth for letting us trial their truck.
Yeah, and that's another thing, like I'd never thought of that, but the amount of drag with that many tyres on the road when they're deflated down 50% pretty much is going to do that. And what about, COVID, as we like to call the ladies' man flu, there I've said it. So it's actually, man flu's a lot worse than COVID, so just so you know. So when you guys went through that, that was a big game changer, I think, for the industry. I don't know if the industry's recovered completely, both with, you know, the fuel levy, with drivers.
Yeah.
I don't know where all the employees have gone, they've sort of just disappeared.
Yeah.
But you said that had a really big impact on what you guys were doing out there as well.
Yeah, I mean, like most of the transport operators in Australia, the transport industry, like, it did not back off through COVID. And, you know, like a lot of Australian housewives and that went into the shopping centres and everything was business as usual due to the truckies that were, you know, all that happened was us was that, you know, the girls in the office worked much harder and we just had a big stack of shit on the dash that we had to hand to the coppers every time, you know. And they just, I mean, we got to know the policemen at the roadblocks that well, they had G&S hats on. Like, the boys have been giving them bloody G&S hats, you know. These ladies were like, yeah, well, you got the latest, yeah, man, just put it on the top of that one, you know, unflip the folder, put another 3 or 4 pages in and whatever, you know. Didn't actually change anything, he said, you know.
It got busier.
Yeah, it got busy.
It's got on a first name basis.
Yeah, oh, that cost was magic to us, you know. Like, they had big bonfires there, you pull up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you go and have a cup of coffee with them, you know. Best I've ever seen them.
Yeah. Through the scales, because I learnt more about that. Yeah. Public relations.
And with drivers, you said that you've got a couple of really long-term guys there, but how do you find, I mean, it's 30,000 odd people in Alice?
Yeah.
Yeah, so how do you go with getting drivers to do that type of work?
Yeah.
As you said, it's very specialised and you've got to find that right guy, but how do you keep them there?
Yeah, I mean,
we treat them more like a family, you know, and, you know, we look after them and we're mindful of that, you know, that they have to spend a bit more time with their families, and yeah, I think that's the way that we've managed to keep drivers for over 20 years, is that they just end up part of your family, and we're lucky, you know, we're not massive companies like some of these other people here, and so like we get to know the people, you know, and then their wives and their kids, and you know, like, and yeah, you know, trying all, you know, it's like, yeah, one dream, one team. You know, we want to be successful, but we want to make them successful along the way. Eh?
Yeah, it's good to be able to give a bit back. And the other thing that you were telling me yesterday, Frank, was about the Filipino employees that you've been bringing out and how great they are, and that's probably pretty good thing to share.
Oh, that's been a game changer. That really hard to get fitters in Alice Springs and in Port Hedland, and yeah, so we ended up with 6 Filipino fitters, because like a lot of the Australian fitters don't like doing trailer maintenance, they like just doing the engine rebuilds, good stuff, and so the servicing and trailer maintenance they don't like doing, and so it's been really hard to retain those fitters. These guys they're incredible. Like, I think that's the way that we're going to have to go to Australia to relieve some of our driver shortage and our fitter shortage, is we've got to go international. Their work ethic is unbelievable. Yeah, like very productive and nice people too to boot, and just don't seem to get bored of, you know, changing out spring packs and, you know, brake boosters and things that like normal people like I hate doing, but you know, and, yeah, they don't seem to get bored about it at all. You know.
Just got to keep the rice up to them.
Yeah, and I've taken the beer very well. I think you've noticed that. They've embraced our Australian beer very good.
I always say yesterday that if anyone ever leaves you, as long as they give a case when they're leaving, they've got a good opportunity to get a job back if they come back later.
Yeah, or if they get reference, if the people ring up for a reference, as long as they put on a carton when they left, they, you know, it doesn't matter. It's like, oh yeah, no, he was a good bloke. Yeah, he's like, that last, if you're ever going to snatch it from your employer, and you just put a carton on it. Yeah, it's that last thing that, you know, that you remind, like, oh no, he was all right.
So you said one guy'd been on 4 times now, but the last one was cut and drafted, so it's a good drop set and come back.
Yeah, we always welcome them back them ones. Yeah. If they leave without them on, oh no, mate, he's useless.
Unreal. So with the specs of your trucks, like what? I know you've got your G&S spec you were talking about, which is pretty much what other people are mimicking now because of the way it's been tried and proven. So what sort of spec are you setting up your vehicles at now?
I mean,
the latest one you've been
pretty
ordering?
old-fashioned with the 6 rod. Yeah.
The airbag wasn't really successful.
Nah, airbags, we had a lot of trouble with airbags, you know, like cracking the diff housings and the arms getting pulled off them and things like that. And top of the definitely weren't getting the rewards, whether it's the 6 or the suspension suited the rough. I mean, it's just infrastructure. Everyone's infrastructure, like I say, it gets better with older those specs, you know. But yeah, so pretty traditional sort of specs, you know, 6 rod. I mean, we're just trying the slipper type front end in the last, you know, few trucks I suppose now, maybe 6, but until then we stuck with the pin type. Yeah, front end weight is critical. You know, like we start getting over 7.2 tonne, it pretty hard on the prime movers. You know, like we run reduced tyre pressures, but then, you know, especially in the summer with the reduced tyre pressures and the radial tyres, you can get halfway out there and, you know, you've probably got, you might have set your tyre pressures on 55 when you left, but, you know, you've got top of 13, 14 psi increase in the heat of the afternoon.
Yep.
And so, yeah, just like even trying to get across the dirt in the early mornings, try and get tyre pressures down and get that a bit better running, you know, like it is. Yeah.
And there's a lot of little unique
Yeah,
things
there's a lot
out
of
in the
little
deserts.
things,
And you wouldn't think that like morning running, you know, the sand's a lot firmer and you know, things that you think, oh no, it wouldn't make any difference. It does. It makes huge difference. Same by going up sand dunes and stuff. Like you can't hit it, and in the heat of the day, you just won't get up. And you know, like there's, you know, you have to wait till the early hours of the morning to get through a lot of stuff. And so, yeah, no, it's been unique. I tell you, learn a lot about the outback and what you can do.
Yeah, just full trial and error with everything, which it needs to be, I suppose. Yeah, and how many have you got in your fleet now?
We're running about 25 Kenworth like frontline ones. We've got a few that we don't really count now, like service trucks and smaller tippers and stuff. But yeah, 25, you know, prime movers sort of things.
Well, and how many have you had in total?
Through our time, we've
I just thought I'd throw the hard questions at you.
yeah, it's, I think we're the last, or you know, we've got 3 509s coming this year, and that'll bring up to 56 we've bought in the last 20 or 30, 28 years.
Yeah, that's pretty big, especially with the spec of them as well.
Yeah, it's not like, yeah, some of these people like buy that every weekend. You know, like, you know, yeah, we're, you know, like just a niche part of of the cake, you know, a small slice, you know, like it's our part.
Yeah, but whether you're a one-man show or someone who's had fleets of hundreds of them, they're at all builds the country, isn't it? So it's all part of it. And I think the innovation of what you guys have been able to do out there is tried and proven as well.
Yeah.
It's just such a different way of life to what a lot of the guys running into an interstate do, like when they're running up and down the coast.
Yeah, I don't think we would have been as successful. You know, we have been quite successful if we had another product, you know, another truck. I think, you know, without blowing their horn, like Kenworth have been really good. You know, they've matched what we've had to do, and they're a really strong prime mover. You know.
Yeah, probably a lot to do with being built out here and engineered as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. And engine of choice, just 600s or?
Yeah, we just run, like 600 horsepower.
X15s,
Yeah.
Don't get a real lot of choice with the engines these days, and especially the higher end of the market, you know, you need to, you're not going to put a DAF in front of it and hope that you pull a quad, you know, or something like that, you know. It's just not going to happen, you know. So, you just got to jump in the heavy end, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got a couple of OW models as well. I'm just going to go back to the exciting stuff.
Oh, the W models, yeah. So Johnny and I bought one first off, and then our brother got jealous over in WA, so he complained that he didn't have one, so we had to go and buy another W model. You know, like, and yeah, we just use it for shunting trailers and bring them in for servicing and stuff. But yeah, it's more as an iconic thing, you know. Rather, you can't get to where you are here without looking back from where you came from, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And, well, they were an incredible truck in their day.
Yeah, very popular now too.
Yeah, well, it's like anything, a lot of things come back,
Yeah,
Flair James.
and when you look at the Legend series, really, that's just goes to show, I think, just where everyone loves the heritage. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping that Kenworth's going to do a W model soon. In the Legend series, I think
we were home for a C500.
C500, yeah,
Yeah.
you've got a few there for your Hadge. You need to work that one out. And what about your family? So you've all got kids, and I met your wives, and who have stood by you for a long time. And that's one thing when we do the podcast, the amount of people that I interview, and even guys that have said, oh, you know, my ex-wife was my backbone, and that sort of thing. I find that that's a really big thing in the industry. And there's a big push, and I love the fact that there's the women in transport has become such a big thing. But so many guys are only here where they are today because of their wives, partners that have supported them through the years. And you guys have the same thing.
definitely true, Bruce. Like, if you haven't got a good woman behind you, it is interesting or good man these days. Yeah,
But look, we're not allowed to talk about Volvo
No,
anymore.
no.
Sorry, Dennis Robertson, that was good.
No, you definitely not going to, you need someone at home that you can trust, and a lot of times that, like they brought up our kids, because both Johnny and I were out on the road, both millions of kilometres out on the road, and so it's been up to our wives to bring them up with kids a lot, and I'm lucky enough, like my son Ryan, he's become a diesel fitter. He works for one of the Kenworth dealers now as a fitter, and my daughter Ainsley, she works in the industry too. She's a lawyer.
You probably need that now.
Yeah, I probably wish she'd become a fitter too sometimes, but we need more of them and less lawyers.
What about yourself, John?
Yeah, one of my sons is my son is a robotic engineer, Andy with the road trains. And Megan's a vet nurse, also handy to kill a kangaroo or something. Extremely proud of them both, but like you say, couldn't solve it for the world. Everyone lives their own life in their own days, So.
Yeah, unreal. Well, gentlemen, it's been great. I've really enjoyed this, and I'm sure everyone else has as well. You guys have
thanks, Bruce.
to come from where you have to get to where you are now and what you've been doing. You're both pretty damn down to earth too. And hopefully Kenworth sponsors me to come out and do a podcast with you one day, because I love Alice Springs. So, especially at the moment. But,
I'll see you at the Hall of Fame.
It sounds like a plan.
Yeah, it's a great place to go.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Nice welcome.
Frank and John, come around.
If I could ask Andrew Molnar and Andrew Takaka to head over to the truck, we're got a couple of gifts for the guys to recognise their contribution. And then shortly after that, if I can get the family to follow them over, and we'll get a photo of you all together. There's a few of you here. So while that's happening, I've just been asked to share with you, you're about to get a notification from the app about an auction, the auction that's going on. If you can register for that straight away, there's a bunch of great prizes. All the proceeds go to the ATA. It closes at 11 o'clock tomorrow night, so when that notification comes through, make sure you register and get involved. So, down here, sorry. Sorry guys. And I've just been told if anyone wants a G&S calendar, they're down here. There's not many, so be quick. So that concludes the Kenworth Legends Lunch. The sessions start back at 1:30. Jump in your apps to see which one you want to go to. And thank you for attending.